Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our valued guest speaker, Dr. Rommel Sergio, who is currently a professor at the Canadian University in Dubai. Prior to this, he was a Master of Science in Leadership and Organizational Development Director at the Abu Dhabi School of Management of the United Arab Emirates. He has also been teaching psychology subjects in the past 2 decades. Prior to his spanning 20 years of teaching in the undergraduate and graduate programs, Dr. Sergio had served in various organizations as an HR director and as an organizational development consultant in the United Arab Emirates and in the Philippines. By the sweat of his brows, strong determination, and mental acuity, Dr. Sergio holds a postdoctoral in management and marketing at the Tulane University, Louisiana, USA. He has earned 2 terminal degrees, PhD in management with concentration in human resource management with high-level distinction at the University of Liverpool, UK, and PhD in counseling psychology, and earned the award of gold medal for highest distinction at the La Salle University, Dasmariñas, Philippines. Academia aside, Dr. Rommel is a humanitarian at heart, having rendered pro bono counseling programs for distressed overseas Filipino workers. He has also been extending his educational consulting at the United International Private Schools in Dubai through psychological services, human resource, and organizational development for the school. Through a foundation he built since 2015, named Dr. Rommel Sergio Scholarship Program, he has been supporting the education of underprivileged students in the 10 towns of Rizal province in the Philippines. He is also the founding board member of the Philippine Psychological Association of the United Arab Emirates chapter, and one of the volunteers of UGAT, Sanda Line, a free online counseling for OFWs in the Middle East. Founded by Ateneo de Manila University, UGAT Foundation in collaboration with ABS-CBN Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's watch a video of the various advocacies that Dr. Sergio is engaged at this time. Can you play the video, please?
Meet the most generous global educator of the Emirates.
Hello, Emirates loves Philippines. I'm Dr. Rommel Sergio, your global educator with the heart of gold.
He started his life as a college dropout. Now, he provides scholarships to more than 10 Philippine provinces. The most important thing you have to know about him is that he loves to help. He gives counseling to Filipino expats with depression, a service that he does for free. Dr. Rommel's work has prevented many people from hurting themselves. He saved lives. He has also given scholarships to hundreds of college students back in the Philippines. And if you want to become his scholar, good grades are not enough.
I thought that it's good to give an opportunity for the youngsters of today to be part of a scholarship program. And the major criteria that I thought of is some sort of the kindness part, wherein they need to have service for the church or for the community where they belong. This is very distinct kasi the usual na requirement natin sa college scholarship is purely intelligence.
But before he was giving help to everyone, he was the one who needed help.
I was definitely a native of Baras Rizal. There was a point in time na pumapasok tayo ng siraan tsinelas natin. We manage mga 4 o'clock ng hapon, wala pa tayong umagahan, no? Pero hindi yan naging hadlang para sa isang kagaya ko na magkaroon ng pangarap na matapos yung education. So, it's something that my parents taught me that that will be definitely the key towards greater things in life. So, I think that's very important as I grow up na makita kung ano yung wala sa'yo, wag mong hanapin. Kundi hanapin mo in due time kung ano yung pwedeng magbigay ng kaginhawahan sa iba brought about by that education that you achieved on your own.
He didn't waste the kindness that was given to him. He used it to become one of the best educators in the world today. His determination led him to attain the rank of professor, the only Filipino in the Emirates to have it. The kindness that he experienced back then inspires him to pay forward to thousands of people.
I'm definitely thankful to where I am because the Emirates has given me the opportunity to spare what I have, maybe my time, my expertise. Well, I'm given the opportunity to really enrich myself. So it's one way over the other, an opportunity to share to the world and share to the Emirates and to the Filipinos whatever talent God has given me. So with that, I'm very thankful to the Emirates.
What you can learn from Dr. Rommel is that giving can go a very long way.
I have definitely learned that when you give back to the community, you pay it forward, you promote positive psychology. And of course, in one way over the other, when we do this, we definitely save lives.
Thank you for watching our video. Sana po ay nagustuhan ninyo ang feature story natin ngayong araw na ito. We are the Love Company and we make videos to showcase the beautiful relationship of the people of the Philippines and the Emirates. Follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Emirates loves Philippines.
Kakaibang misyon ang bitbit ng Pinoy na si Dr. Rommel Pilapil Sergio habang nasa Dubai. Kaalaman sa psychology, galing sa pagtuturo at dedikasyon sa community service ang gamit niya sa kanyang pagtulong sa mga kababayan.
Tumutulong siyang maging matatag ang Filipino community sa United Arab Emirates. Kilalanin ang Global Pinoy Idol ng Dubai sa Balitang Global ni Raquel Saliner.
Lumulubog si Dr. Rommel Sergio sa mga kabataang Pinoy at kanilang mga magulang para ipaunawa ang kahalagahan ng mental health at malabanan ng depresyon. Nagbibigay siya ng libreng counseling at train the trainers sa konsulado at mga guro. Katuwang ang pinamumunuan ang Psychological Society of the Philippines sa Dubai at Abu Dhabi at Filipino educators in the UAE, tinututukan nila ang kalagayan ng mga kababayan.
I've been doing therapy for male inmates before. So since dito, hindi ganun kadali yun, I found my way para ma-strengthen yung core of community service.
Patuloy din niyang hinahasa ang sarili para mas epektibo pang makatulong.
Kahit po tayo ay nagtuturo na sa universidad, kinakailangan ma-recognize pa rin po namin yung importansya ng learning and development.
Napansin ang kanyang mga ginagawa at humakot siya ng mga award sa pagtuturo at dedikasyon sa serbisyo. Nariyan ang Best Research Paper sa Harvard University ng 2013 at Global Leadership in Research Award sa International Journal sa Dubai ng 2016. Ginawaran din siya ng Global Educators Award ng University of Cambridge sa UK. Tumanggap siya ng Presidential Award for Outstanding OFW ng Pamana Award at 2 beses nakasama sa 100 Most Influential Filipinos sa Gulf Region.
Kahit po tayo ay nagtuturo na sa universidad, kinakailangan ma-recognize pa rin po namin yung importansya.
Dr. Rommel has been instrumental in assisting the HRM department to move forward, and he has been wonderful for me. He is a wonderful mentor and guide.
Sa Pilipinas, nagtayo si Dr. Sergio ng Scholarship Foundation para sa mahihirap na kabataan.
Nadarama ko po ang hirap ng pag-aaral. Pero dahil po sa foundation nito, malaki pong bagay ang itulong. Ito po yung isang kaluwagan po sa akin bilang estudyante na nagsisikap at lubos po akong mas nagsumikap at na-motivate na mag-aaral na mabuti. Maraming salamat po at naway marami po akong matulungan ng foundation.
Inspirasyon sa pagbuo ng foundation ang naging karanasan niya nang siya ay nagtinda ng uling at sagot gulaman sa Baras Rizal, mag-part-time ng 3 trabaho para lang mabuhay at makapag-aral at magpaaral sa mga kapatid. Raquel Salinel, Dubai, UAE.
Ladies and gentlemen, the video presentation provided us of a bird's eye view of a larger scale of Dr. Sergio's advocacies and humanitarian efforts to help people face life's challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Dr. Rommel Sergio.
Wow. As a response, I have my heart icon for all of you guys. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ma'am Nori, for that very, I would say, heart-pounding introduction. That's the warmest I got so far in my. I think this is the 70th time I've been doing this webinar from the time we had the pandemic since March of 2020. It's an honor to be part of your esteemed organization. Of course, REBAP Global City Chapter, being led by our very own Sir Lorenzo Baliate III. Since I've met one of your members in one of the webinars, I was a speaker in Expo 2020. Of course, Sir Joey happens to know, and probably you have come to know what Expo 2020 is. 3 weeks ago, I was part of that, and God is really good to have one of your supporters communicated to me that there is such thing as REBAP Global City Chapter wanting to have a spearheading of this activity. So I never say no to our kababayans. If other nationalities, we come to serve them up to the point of giving the program for free. How much more for our fellow kababayans, our compatriots po, no? So let's give not just the Global City Chapter a big round of applause, but also its members, its different chapter officers, probably the advisors and the board of directors. Let's give all of them a big round of applause. Okay. Virtual applause. There you go. Ayan. It's easier said than done. One of the things that we've learned during the pandemic is that we have to protect our head, literally and figuratively. You know, so that's because it's a test of how well our core of resilience will take us either to advance for the future or to somehow to regress, you know, because of course that's the reason why we have our discussion today. It's because many of our fellow kababayans have been regressing. It's a matter of looking into what the challenge would take us. So let me share the very good poster the organization has prepared for us. You know, and I also would like to acknowledge, of course, our very lively hosts today, MJ and Neo. They also deserve a very good round of applause for the very, very enticing, very, I would say, they excite us. You know, there's this exuberance coming out of their energy. Well, yeah, you know, in my discussion point, only if we have it in person, it's so easy to psych up your energies. And of course, MJ had some sort of a reflection in that note by asking you, how do you feel today? You assign a number on that note. And you come to reflect, you know, one way over the other, how things would go, or how things are going with you so far. It's one way over the other a good reflection point, wherein we come to lose touch of the reflection side. It's a skill at the end of the day, because once we recognize what's happening and once we fully understand what's happening, we lessen the fear there is, the fear of uncertainty, for example. and the fear of the tumultuous times there is as of the current time. So again, it's an honor to have this session with you. And keep in touch. Some of you are already in touch with me, but then it's just good to have this session. We're always blessed with this moment because from time to time, some people seek for assistance for their mental health. And as mentioned earlier on, we do have a good news in terms of the platform. We've started that right after the start of the pandemic, March 2020. We're in online. Our kababayans can definitely reach out to us. We have it operational 7 days a week, Ugat Sandaline. So just reach out to me if in case you won't be able to remember Ugat Sandaline, but then we'll also make a way. I know how organized the organizers are in a way that they do capture those important information. So Ugat Sandaline is an online platform for Filipinos. We even opened it here in the UAE, and not just in UAE, but also in the Middle East. The biggest number of volunteers happen to be from the organization that we have established here in the UAE. Okay, so that's the good news so far. We're happy also to have today's session as a preview. I'll be giving the preview in a sense that when we were discussing at the end, in the previous weeks, so anong meron sa ating discussion point today, it's just good to see how people would have a common view or sometimes a different view of what mental health is. So today we'll have that cleared. So it's important that our team highlights that too. We have the basics of mental health on the side. Ang ganda kanina ng discussion kay Ma'am Grace pa lang, no, na about that 7 million people, Filipinos suffering from depression. And having said that, nakakalungkot po na makita natin that out of that, there's only 1,400 psychologists available for today. That means it's 1 out of 800,000 Filipinos that we basically have today. So some more updates on that note will be given to us or to you. We also have some questions like stress to being depressed. So the youngsters of today, even my son, my 9-year-old son, would sometimes say it's so depressing. So they have this commonality of saying the word depression. So depress agad, no? Hindi pa lang makahawak ng gadget and all that. Masin mode lang tayo, depress agad, no? So let's see the difference. Let's give a differentiation between being stressed and being depressed, okay? And then from there, you will also see how alarming it gets when you are really at the state of your depression. And of course, we have a lot of professionals with us today. Well, people of all walks of life, basically, but I would assume being a professional organization or being part of professional organizations that we have right now, we have sponsors that are professionally inclined. We have, I think it's important to see how the mental health and productivity correlates, okay? And last but not the least, how on our own specific way, how do we know we are depressed and how do we help out other people, even if we're not really psychologists? Can we basically help out other people the way we can, okay? So these are just some of the introductory concepts, or I would say parameters that will come up, we'll try to cover in today's session. So yes, World Health Organization is one of the definitions I'm lifting every time I have a session like this. It's solely because they have a very simple, very clear understanding of what mental health is all about. So it's as simple as this, no? We're like a pendulum that at some extent, you would feel you're okay, and on some days, or even in a specific day, you would feel happy in the morning, and then suddenly have a different mood in the afternoon. Okay, it happens in so many circumstances, so many reasons why that also occurs, because we are thinking and feeling individuals. Okay, so this happens due to the 3 different aspects. One is, it's like ABC model, no? Yung ABC, A for affective, the way we feel about things, and this is how we socialize. That's the social well-being, no? Our relationship with other people also proves how mentally stable and mentally healthy we are. So no matter how balanced your physical aspect is, that's the first part, physical well-being. Nag-exercise po tayo, we have our way to have brisk walking 30 minutes, 1 hour a day. It's very good for your cardio. But then come to think of it, that it also has to balance with your mental state. It's how you think, okay? That's in the middle. O kaya po ABC, no? A for affective, that's the last part you would see on the screen at the right side, the social well-being. The cognitive is the mental well-being, it's how we think. And the physical, well-being, the behavior, it's how you exhibit wellness as well. That's still part of the physical well-being. So balance po dapat ito in a sense that there's always a struggle how we balance it off, na makapag-exercise po tayo and we eat the right nutrients, or we take in the right nutrients. Later we'll have some tips, ano po ba yung mga healthy food, and at the same time happy food din sila na matatawag, that can help us somehow regulate our state of happiness due to some hormones that can be tapped out of taking in those food. No? So it's very interesting, one way over the other in the next few minutes, because it's part of what we normally do, and sometimes we're aware but we just don't think we're serious enough to do the right thing. Yan po yung problem sa atin eh. We know what's right but we still do wrong. No? That's one thing we probably have learned during the pandemic, na to do the right thing, because prioritizing our health, our well-being is definitely the key towards survival. Bago pa tayo magkaroon ng tinatawag na thriving state, survival state is very essential. Okay? So I think that's one of the basics of mental health there, na hindi lang po yan yung aspeto na nag-exercise tayo, mentally healthy na po tayo. No? So of course, physical wellness is as good as mental health, and so as the way you think, the way you regulate things, and so as the way you interact with other people. Hindi po natin pwedeng masabi na nag-exercise tayo and then we think positively, pero wala po tayong respeto sa iba. So that's the social well-being part, which is a gray area. So we need a balance of these three. I think that's something that we need to emphasize. Now, ang dami sa atin gumagamit ng depression or depress as a substitute term for stress. No? It should not be, because malalim po ang pinaghuhugutan kung tayo po ay may anxiety, may depression. These are two psychological disorders that you don't want to definitely have. No? But of course, you need to recognize if you have it, dahil karamihan po na may anxiety at may depression, 60% and above do not even know that they have it. No? And it's a serious disorder that needs some psychological interventions or attention. Mamaya po pupunta tayo doon how we can combat that, or what are the things that we need to do if that is the case. So normal ba na ma-stress? No? So there's a survey po at the beginning of the pandemic. There are only 10 items, and some of these items na-cover po ni Sir MJ kanina. No? Most yung processing ni Sir MJ kanina, na hindi ba ako nakakakain maayos, o kumakain ba ako ng mas madami than what I'm supposed to have, nakakatulog ba ako ng maayos, no, and all that. So in these 10 items na ilabas ng American Psychological Association, eventually po sa atin ay kumalat din ang survey na ito. It's like a self assessment of some sort. Nakita po natin doon na ang sabi po ng mga experts, kung hindi ka man lang na-stress during the pandemic, you're a superwoman, superhuman or superhuman. No? Superwoman or a superhuman. Kung babae o kung lalaki po. Definitely, it's something that we have been worried about. No? Wala pong nakakatuwa doon sa nangyayari ng panahon ng pandemic. Pero nagkaroon po tayo ng pagkakataon to enrich ourselves by reflecting on what we can do rather than those that we cannot do. Dami po natin naging limitations, true, pero marami rin po na-discover ang mga tao sa panahon na iyon o na ito, dahil hindi pa naman po tapos ang pandemic, the tail of the pandemic is still around. But definitely we are all stressed because there are a lot of stressors that come with it, no? Occasions na hindi natin napuntahan, yung mga OFs po na gaya namin, ni Sir Joey for example, maraming hindi, o kahit po kayo na supposed to be kapatid, kaibigan, asawa, kamag-anak, na supposed to be uuwi, dahil may special occasion, graduation, kasal, di po ba, mga natwart po lahat yan eh. So the fact that it has been thwarted and it has been, it has been hindered, nagkaroon ng frustration, no, doon. So stressful situations really happen. Kung nag-spike po yan sa level na hindi na po tayo naka-function masyado, like nagiging absent sa work, kahit sabihin na online pa yan, dahil nagkaroon po tayo ng work from home, hindi na natin nagawa yung ating function, we're more withdrawn, hindi na tayo masyadong naka-function as a citizen, generally, as a son, as a daughter, as a worker. Doon po yung pumapasok yung probably yung anxiety and depression effects, no? Yun yung kaibahan ng stress and depression and anxiety in general. Papunta po tayo sa general symptoms in a while, and it just seems so important na kahit alam niyo yung basic symptoms, may mga minor symptoms that we also need to take into account, no? That you need to be aware of para po mas maging maayos yung ating management of the self or people that we love or people that we don't even know but they need probably an attention or referral from your side. Okay? Marami po tayo po instrument of God na pag minsan sa most unexpected moment, napansin po natin na meron dapat na magawa from our side and you were able to do that. Napakaginhawa po niyan sa pakiramdam na nakatulong po tayo sa iba. No? I know we're not here to solve the problems of the world, but if we can we can help out one soul at a time, you are making a difference in the world. Okay? Yeah. So that's the stress to depressed portion that I would want to emphasize on. So sino po yung mas nakaka-experience ng depression? No? So definitely many of you would agree that women has more exposure to it, although men in our lifetime basically had twice as much of the impact. No? So mas prone yung mga babae, pero mas nagkakaroon po ng mas matagumpay na attempt, especially when it comes to self-harm, sa males. Okay? So you can see here that 1 out of 8 women experience depression, and twice as men happen to have the impact there is. It's only because alam po natin na when depression strikes among men, men have more guaranteed way to basically commit the most harm on the self. No, before we call it suicide po, nowadays ang term po na ginagamit natin is self-harm. Okay? So we have to be so keen about this. Alam niyo po sa isang session na ganito na meron po tayo, at kahit po ngayon ako po kinikilabutan kapag naalala ko po yung circumstance na yan, among engineers in the UAE, one parent stood up during the open forum and he said, I agree with what you were saying. He was agreeing with what I was saying, that we need to be more observant, with what's happening in our environment, because he lost his son. Yung kanyang anak po na 20 years old ay nagpatiwakal at hindi niya it's a male, at hindi niya po na-pick up ito. Same thing sa grade schoolers na meron po tayo sa UAE. I won't mention the school to protect its name, but definitely those in the UAE have probably known about it because it's all over the news. May dalawa po tayo na cases, isang babae, isang lalaki sa grade school, na nagkaroon po ng ganyang circumstance. They ended up their lives. Isang araw lang po ang layo. No? It's just 1 day difference. Ang nakakalungkot po itong factor na ito dahil kahit po yung survey ngayon na sinasabi ng international survey, when you take a look sa puberty and at an average dun sa adolescence period, they are claiming that they know more about online activities. They know more information about online activities than their parents. Masakit po yan sa mga parents na gaya po natin or dun sa inyo na you're taking care of your family, probably as siblings, di po ba, na we're not aware, and at the same time, our siblings or people whom we love, especially the youngsters, they have more affiliation or more love to navigate through online sources than to interact with us. No, and there's a danger in there because there are a lot of even online softwares that can prompt your loved ones, regardless of age, to be hooked to some of the activities na pwede pong mangyari technologically, no, na they dare these people to basically end their life at the end of a specific day. No, may challenge. No? And this happened to these kids na sa X number of day, they need to basically have the ending of their lives, no? And may mga activities on specific days na kailangan gawin. But anyway, this is just one of the information we would want to look into and check further what we can do with regard to the scenario. So why is depression more common in women? I've mentioned already one of them, but probably some of you are aware already in terms of age variable. Women, when they lose their menstrual cycle, bumababa po yung estrogen level. And chances are, pag bumaba po yung estrogen level, may kinalaman din po yun sa spiking of the opposite of happiness, which is sadness. No? So hindi lang po yung pangulubot ng balat ang normally that happens, which is also something that when they notice, it is also something that could trigger the state, the mental health state. No? But it's more of the estrogen level that purports the feeling of sadness because it has an impact on mood, among others, which irritability also happens once in a while. So diagnostic differences po would indicate that more women confides, this is from around the world, that they are basically depressed compared to men. Siguro po yung coping kasi, no? So women are more emotive than cognitive. Ang males po are more cognitive with their approaches, no? In many cases, of course, it may be different across genders, but that's the most common in the study. So kapag exposed na sa more stressful life events, yung coping po na emotive works in a way quite on the negative side. No? Ibig sabihin po ay mas naapektuhan ng stress, ng work, life and work challenges, among others. So women also take more social roles than men. Okay, this can be argumentatively correct or incorrect for some others. But then, as we know, women basically maneuver, in between work and home. No, males definitely it's a responsibility to provide something for our family, but women basically they have the responsibility to even run the chores at home, among other things. No? So other than being a family member, they are church member, they have multiplicity of roles. No? And the social roles are more emotionally laden. No? Mas madaling magkaroon ng emotional traps. So therefore, women has that more susceptibility. Emotion-focused coping style, I mentioned that already. And the hormones, particularly when women reaches 40 years and beyond, some of the literature says 50, minsan nagkakaroon rin sila ng question in mind, bakit ba ako umiiyak at some point in time? Kahit yung midlife crisis for women happens earlier than that of men. Okay? All right, so that's just an enlightenment there. So kung mas marami po tayo ngayon na tagapakinig at taga-suporta na babae, they come to realize, or us po as males, we take care of our spouses, our relatives, so we come to know the difference between the two. Okay, so ang dami na nabigay kanina ng ating somehow what do you call this, nag-open ng remarks sa atin. And nakita po natin kanina yung updates ni Ma'am Grace, no, in that case. So that brought me, habang sinasabi po ni Ma'am Grace ito, having said that we have 8.7% of women have depression, this is global and worldwide. So I really commend the organization for coming up with this. Probably this is not their first, but we give certain flavors, I know, with every time we have a session like this. So Sir Lorenzo, when he was deliberating with me that depression is the main focus, I said that is definitely a very good discussion point, because by 2030, it's the leading disorder, psychological disorder in the world. Of course, in the Philippines and in the Southeast Asian countries, that definitely is the leading currently right now. There's just a difference between anxiety and depression in some other countries. Nagpapalitan lang po sila. So essentially, sa depressed individuals, they have very low energy. Ang may anxiety, kabaligtaran, no? They have high energy. No? Halos pareho yung symptoms po nila. Later on, we'll deal with that. Like, parehong nagkakaroon ng oversleeping or undersleeping, under po na hindi po kayo masyado makatulog, insomnia, or nakakatulog po kayo ng sobra-sobra, no? Hypersomnia naman po yan. I myself, when my mother passed away in 2015, I'm more of having hypersomnia episodes. No? I can sleep for up to 16 to 18 hours per day with a pattern of 2 to 3 weeks in a row. So that's something that many should pick up if in case one member of your family has it. No? So in the 300 million worldwide expertise who experience depression, nabanggit na po kanina 7 million of which happen to be with us, and hindi pa po yan real-time figure, no? That is the somehow even prior to the pandemic, no? So, but right now, as we talk, one thing that has been highlighted in this part of giving us an update, how stressful it can be for the government and for us, who may have known that only 3 to 5% of the local foreign budget has been allocated to us for mental health. That's already a very stressful fact. Plus, I mentioned po kanina, there's only 1,400 mental health professionals, which specifically psychologists would have, no? And around only 500 psychiatrists po in the country. So what we have done in the event of the pandemic, having it floated, being experienced in March of 2020, we were able to have an alliance in the Philippines and here in the UAE. Nabanggit na po kanina sa video ang ilan sa mga efforts na ito at sa introduction din po sa akin kanina. But I just would want to take this opportunity for our fellow kababayans who may have that experience or witness some other people, even yourselves. You can basically log in to Ugat Sandaline. It's a free online counseling platform po that I mentioned in my prelude at an earlier point in time. So, ang dami pong alarming facts that you can see in here. I just highlighted with the facts that were propagated, that were disseminated rather, at the early point in time, and this was in 2017. It is hypothesized that around 25 to 30% spike have had happened during the pandemic. You know, so nakita po natin kung gaano kalaki yung mas naging dami, no, ng depressive states, not just in the Philippines but from around the world. Maliban po dyan, ang isa sa nakakalungkot po na fact ay dahil sa irritability and all, yung pong aggression na nangyayari even sa bahay, no, natin, na maaaring pananakit galing sa parents or someone, member of the family, has also increased during the pandemic by 15 to 20%. And this is part of the Philippine statistics. Okay? All right, so ano po ba yung mga symptoms? No? So I already mentioned some of those, like oversleeping, and some happen to be in the form of undersleeping. In that case, we have the insomnia. Isolation, no? Kung meron po tayong mga kasambahay or even ourselves who suddenly feel we need to withdraw from the situation, no? Naging isolated, withdrawn, nagkukulong sa kwarto, hindi kumakain, ilang araw na. Most of the time po, ang pattern po ay 2 weeks na na-observe, no, minimum. But we don't need to wait for more days just to say, oh, isang buwan na. No? Wag na po natin paabutin. Then we would not know what's happening in the head of the person at ano nangyayari sa loob ng kwarto. No? Lalo na kung hindi po lumalabas at hindi kumakain. So, nandiyan po yung sleep disturbance. Guilty, being guilty, parang self-blame po happens also all the time if I will concentrate more on depression. Parang pati pandemic, sinisi mo na sa sarili mo. Any circumstances that would happen sa bahay, hindi nakabili ng gas o hindi nakabayad ng electricity yung isang member ng family, you attribute that to yourself too. It's more of the guilt feelings that the person has. No appetite or the opposite. No? Nung pandemic, sabi nga po natin, parang it's not just social distance that we need to think about, but it's also ourselves being socially distant from our refrigerators. Kasi po nag-overeating, no? Kasi there's also a spike in the appetite. So dalawa rin po 'yung nangyari sa appetite, pwedeng magandang appetite or loss of appetite. Okay? Parang sa pagtulog din po, double-bladed. Extreme sadness, well, dependence in alcohol, sometimes there's even self-medication that is happening because yung nararamdaman po kasi ng tao na may depression, parang ang bigat talaga ng pakiramdam niya, na pag chronic na, the person cannot even prioritize to drink or eat or even brush his or her teeth. No? I hope you did today. Or didn't even manage to take a bath. No, kasi ang bigat talaga ng feeling, no. Hinihila siya lagi sa kama, lagi nakahiga, hindi makakilos ng maayos, no. Talagang walang physical activity, no. It's very stagnant siya. Because of the low energy as well. And of course, there's poor concentration. The worst thing that can happen to a depressed individual is having thoughts of death or to push oneself to commit self-harm, then eventually, yung pong old term natin na suicide. Okay? Yan po yung mga nakakalungkot na aspeto. So clinically, kung gusto po natin na tayo ay ma-diagnose, there must be at least 4 among these so many symptoms that you can find in your screen right now. Okay? 4 lang po out of those. So kung isang event po sa ating buhay, maaring trigger ito, na somebody passed in the family, somebody experienced loss of job, that can be one trigger that can trigger the other signs, the other factors to come alive. And syempre po sinasabi po natin, hindi po ito dapat binabaliwala dahil yung mga experiences nga po na shinare ko sa inyo kanina are alarming experiences. No? Na nasa huli po yung pagsisisi. No? So we really need to make a way to devote our time, makita natin ito. Kaya po alam niyo po, nung balikan ko po yung 2 cases na nagkaroon ng suicide cases po dito sa UAE, binalikan po natin even the parents, the bereaved parents, the administrators, 360 degrees po ito, no? Me being the educational consultant and educational psychologist in that respect. I was able to also talk to the classmates of the students who passed away. Mas nakakakilabot po yung encounter ko, my dear parents, my dear colleagues, mga kababayan po natin, doon sa estudyante, more than 100 students within that batch. No? So, hinalo po natin yung mga iba-ibang sections within that level. Meron po tayong processing questions na ginawa, no? 2 light questions and then yung isa ang mabigat na question. First question, kumain na ba kayo? Second question, how do you feel today? Happy or sad? Tumatayo po sila whenever I have a question. Yung last question ko po, who wants to commit suicide? No? So more than 100 students po, more than 20 po ang tumayo. They were brave enough to say it. When we process it, why do you think this runs in your head? And sabi nila, wala na silang problema. No, kami andito pa, marami kaming problema. So, yung youngsters of today po ay konting stress lang, depression na agad po yan for them no. So, and there's also a study, my compatriots na even in the US, it's contagious, no. It's like a thought that can easily be transferred to one person over the other. So we need to be very vigilant about this. Talk to those individuals whom we feel they are already experiencing this for them to realize there's a need for them to be given help. Okay? So ano po dapat gawin? Ayun na po yung isang binanggit ko. Do something about it in your own respective ways. No? Pero kung tayo po, ang tingnan din po natin yung mga tao na kung bakit hindi po sila nadidepress. No? Emotionally intelligent people are kind of free or at least quite far from being depressed. No? Yan po yung sinasabi natin na you are more aware about your feelings, how you react to other individuals. Before you say something, you think about it. So yung cognitive aspect ko na binabanggit ko kanina sa ABC na model, no? A for affective, B for behavioral, C for cognitive. Yung the way we process information really helps us to deal with depression and combat it eventually. Many people are traveling po, no? So sa pinakang onset po ng studies in today's world, traveling is a very good option to take. No? Yung lagaslas ng tubig, yung green pastures na makikita mo, the combination of that, it rewires the brain. It makes the brain not just relax, but findings say that those dead neurons, no, dati hindi po yan re-regenerate. But right now, the new studies say that it regenerates due to so many factors, one of which is traveling. Being thankful is actually a helpful thing. No? So kapag po pala tayo, we have to, on our own, we appreciate the value of not the big things, even the small things. No? It makes us, our brain particularly, be rewired, no? And have some of those regenerative, cells that have to be regenerated from that particular scenario. So these are some of the things that those individuals that have a very well-rounded well-being, part of physical, mental, and social, that we were talking about at the beginning, basically have. No? So have your 7 to 8 hours sleep per day. Well, fruits, later on we'll talk about what kind of fruits other than banana and apple that we can see on the screen. Berries, right? Well, for those who are already experiencing depression and hindi na po makaya ng counseling or even psychotherapy, they do have pharmacological kumbaga po ay solution to that, which is in the form of taking antidepressants. This is already those who are meeting up with their psychiatrist, no longer psychologists. Bath is a way to replenish those energies that are negative. Proven, having said that, it perks up the veins. Schedule your work, you have your own priority, make cognitive overload po tayo ngayon, no? Lalo na nung height ng pandemic. So ang dami nating inattendan, we have our family members with us, we have something to cook for our family. Among so many things, nakaka-overload po talaga yan, no? But nonetheless, especially those who are not taking much leafy vegetables or nutrients commonly taken, no? They resort to vitamins, meeting up your doctor. Yoga is a form of clearing up the mind and the body, so therefore definitely it helps with your physical and mental state. Positive thoughts, easier said than done po yan, but awareness comes into play. Kapag may awareness po tayo, mas madali po natin malaman what has to be done. The psychology of fear proves to be there because once you panic, once you have the anxiety, for instance, it's solely because of the fact that you're quite irrational about what you need to think about and what you need to do in line with something that you don't understand. No? So dyan po pumapasok yung pag hindi natin agad naintindihan ng isang bagay, pinapasok po agad tayo ng tinatawag na automatic negative thoughts. ANTS, ants, literally, no? So kinakain niya yung ating state of being, and we tend to be negative, no? What else? Exercise, literally, sinabi lang po dito na walking, but that's also part of that, no? So pag nakita po natin yung mga symptoms, we don't need to become a psychologist just for us to know this. If it is about us, have the awareness, meet someone. It's important to meet an expert, you know. Kung tayo naman po ay hindi expert at tayo po ang nilapitan, wag din po nating i-turn down agad-agad. No, do something about it. It's part of what we call psychological first aid. Nagraran po kami niyan sa aming organization kasi minsan may mga moments po na may lumapit po sa atin and we block them from expressing themselves. Most likely, nag-commit po sila ng suicide or self-harm, you know, at that. We don't want that to happen, no? And yun, nagkakaroon po tayo ng special training for them. But you don't also need the special training. You just need a listening ear, no? And do your best. Sa tingin niyo po hindi niyo na makaya, encourage the person to reach out a professional or refer them to us here in Sandaline, okay? All right, so that's, I think, one thing important in here that I would want to emphasize. Okay, I mentioned already the positive thinking, no? Meron po tayong tinatawag na growth mindset and the fixed mindset. Negative people always dwell with the present. They don't think about the future. Lagi inisip nila, lagi lang yung negative state as of the current time. So positivity is not actually the denial of reality. It's the recognition of reality, but then you don't stuck into the reality. You're saying that part of the positive image, hey, I think we are having this, but just like a typical season, it's not always raining all throughout the year. So whatever we have right now is something that we can combat. Sooner or later, it will be different. Just like timing of the day, it's not always nighttime from which you can see the dimness of the night. No, it's time will come, you will have to embrace sunrise, for example, no? So dumarating din yung liwanag sa atin. It's a general optimism that helps in cultivating the positive psychology there is, or the culture of positivity in us. Okay? It starts with oneself. As they say, it's so difficult to give someone or to offer someone something that you don't have. It needs to start from oneself. And of course, I would say this in responding to the tough times. So let me just go back there. In responding to the tough times, there are tips that we can offer you. No? It's easier said than done, as I've said po kanina, na think positively. Pero paano po natin ito gagawin? No? How do we basically do that if we are in that particular situation? Well, kanina po, nabanggit po natin yung 3 aspects: physical, mental, and social. So that comes to play na ako hindi pala sapat na nag-exercise lang ako. Hindi pala sapat na nag-iisip lang ako ng mabuti para sa sarili ko at para sa iba. Kundi nakikita rin ito with the way I deal with other people. No? So kung tayo po ay nagmumura sa mga tao na hindi naman po dapat natin ginaganyan, at tayo po ay hindi nagiging fair sa iba, no, at nagiging rude po tayo all the time, ay kita-kita po natin yung negativity dyan, and that cannot quantify the state of mental health at that. So isang sample po yan na pwede nating sabihin na kasi po yung verbal aggression is the first step towards physical aggression. No? May malaking link po yan dalawang yan. So let's be aware about our actions. And as professionals and as responsible parents, brothers, sisters, sons or daughters, it's so important to behave in a way that we can. At the same time, we're happy behaving that way. Okay. So that's part of maintaining our mental health. Start your day with positive affirmation. No? So it goes without saying, we pray morning and evening. We thank God for our survival, for another day that there is. But at the same time, we also thank purely our good Lord for offering us that day, for giving us another day. You know? The air that we breathe. These are simple things that once you don't come to realize and to affirm, ayun, nandun na po agad tayo sa kabilang dako. Hindi na po positive yung agad yung naisip natin. There's always a spike in our belief system. No? So focus on the good things po, not on the other side. Yung hinahanap po natin na, sabi ko nga po doon sa video na napanood nyo kanina, kaya po tayo remain to be unsatisfied with what we have. We always look for things that we don't have. No? And we will end up unhappy because of that. So if we will deal on small things that we have, even those are small things, our families are with us, we have the healthy state right now, at least physically. Now, these are things that you need to be thankful about. At sabi ko nga po kanina, mas mahaba po yung lifespan ng mga thankful. This is with regard to the new study. So maliit na bagay na pagsasabi ng thank you sa iba is already an appreciation of something. And sometimes you don't know, it really promotes the happiness hormones there is, no? Meron po tayo mamayang discussion on that note, how it affects the dopamine level kapag ka nako-comment po tayo, nasasabihan po tayo na, oh, you're doing well, no? O kanina, nagkataon, it's a coincidence. I was able to say to Neo, and he is smiling right now, and MJ, that they have a very good impact at the beginning, no? So that increased their dopamine level without me measuring that, because it's basically part of psychology, and it's basically automatic among people. No? So how much more at work if we are commended by people around us that we're doing well? Di po ba it boosts our energy up and it keeps us going. So same thing, don't hesitate to do that. Small things, even at home, no? To practice that. If that is really worth doing, then we need to give credits where it is due. Right? So also practice positive psychology, positive self-talk rather. Just make sure na pag ginawa po niyo to ay hindi kayo nagsasalita on your own lang dahil minsan akala niyo mag-isa po kayo pero may tao pala sa paligid niyo, isipin nila ano na pong nangyayari sa inyo. We do positive self-talk every day. What time do we need to wake up? What time do we need to brush our teeth? What time do we need to go and take a bath? I hope you did. For today, it's part of positivity, no? It's part of reflective skills. Yan po ay it gives us more energy to start with, and we're more active than not, and we know what to do, and we need to we know also how to handle ourselves and which specific time of the day. Okay. So enjoy the things that you do. Focus on what matters most. Meron pong iba sa inyo na ang personality ay panicky na, pero sila pa talaga yung nagbabalita ng kung anong nangyayari sa Russia at sa Ukraine. Worrisome na nga, kayo pa yung unang-una nag-update ng mga panahon ng pandemic at the height of the pandemic. Ito na yung libo-libong namatay sa Pilipinas at sa ibang bansa. No? So I have a friend like that, and I advise her, you may not be aware of it, but you panic all the time, and you're the first one, tinalo mo pa yung leading ano po natin dito sa UAE, si Ma'am Raquel Salanel, no? Correspondent po ng ABS yan, and she happens to be one of the most active and well-known in our community here. Sabi ko, ganun, tinalo mo pa si Ma'am Raquel Salanel sa pagbibigay ng ulat. And that's because of some people's personality. Nangingiti si Sir Ray sa nirelate ko na yan. It's just because these people are not really so aware, and so as depressed people, no? Nabanggit ko po kanina. So maging mapagmatsyag po tayo. Surround yourself with positive people. Again, awareness po is the key. No, palagi mo alam po natin yung dapat gawin, pero hindi po natin ginagawa kasi what's right, no? We don't consume the information that we need or the things that we only need. No, lalo pa tayo nag-expose dun sa mga negative aspects, maging tao man yan or in social media man yan, no? So you be the first person to guard yourself. Because if that will not happen, who will? No? Unless may mga tao po tayo na caring enough in our community or in our side who can advise us further. Paano po kung wala? No? But sessions like this prompt you to think along that line, no? And would say, oh nga, no? Kasi nakatutok lang ako doon sa tingin ko is relevant, pero hindi na pala siya relevant to me or hindi na pala siya importante sa akin, no? In terms of boosting my mental health. So, turn failures into lessons in this case. Lahat po tayo may pinanggagalingan at may pinagdadaanan. There's no perfect person, there's no perfect situation. Even before the pandemic po, yung po nakita niyo kanina sa Global Pinoy Idol, it's an award towards heroism. They went here in Dubai. It was in 2018. So, wala pa pong pandemic. Alam na po namin sa group namin that mental health issue, mental health concern is a silent pandemic. It's a silent pandemic in itself, my dear kababayans, kasi hindi natin nakikita na nangyayari siya. It's looming all over the country, all over the world, and yet seldom are those who give attention to it. No, I mean, even the government, as what you can see, it's not just the Philippines. Don't get me wrong, no, but entirely from different parts of the world. Ngayon na nakita po natin na may ganyang scenario. Even UAE placed a special feature in the insurance, no, related to mental health. Kapag magpapakonsult yung mga empleyado, that has something to do with social, mental well-being, isinama na rin po dyan kasi mahal ang pag-consult po sa espesyalista. No, so I think it's something that the Philippines and some other countries have also reflected. Of course, different scenario po yan. Depende sa kung gaano po kaayos ang mental health system sa isang bansa. At isa po yan sa siguro dapat nating pagtuunan, no, in terms of awareness po on our side. So, That's why I'm so happy having REBAP Global City Chapter in collaboration with the different organizations to come up with this. Dahil it starts with oneself. So sa community where we have this opportunity to turn our failures into lessons. Okay? And accept the help that you need. This is very important. During the time, I was collaborating with different people, psychologists, even some psychiatrists po na meron po tayo sa Pilipinas in our own specific way sa amin pong organization. Nakita po namin yung kahalagahan to accept the help that we need because even professionals like us and you, kahit those in the mental health helping profession, ay nakakaranas din po ng depression at some extent. And something that is important to look into, accept the things the help that we need. And if you're strong enough, extend the help that you can give. So I think it's very powerful maxim in today's situation. Dahil ang era po natin, may kababayans ay hindi na basta AI era na lang. We revert back to the basic of mental health. Positive psychology, mental well-being, that's the battle cry of the 21st century. Okay? So these are the things on how you can respond to the challenges of the trying times. Okay? And of course, prior to one of the last few sets of information I would want to state in terms of promoting mental health, bago ko po ibigay sa inyo yung aking synthesis that I've come to share every time I have a webinar like this. Yung meditation po, na binanggit natin kanina, yoga, for example, prayer is a form of meditation, of course. If we come to engage in this for 5 minutes or so, it's something that clears the head. It gives you good focus for concentration, for example, among other things, okay? And I mentioned so many things about gratitude. Practice that, especially if you think that's worthy to do. Dahil hindi naman palagi in-exercise po natin na in a way na hindi naman siya appropriate. Like praising others. When it is due, do exercise that way of praising others as well. And give yourself some time as well, to be able to, it's not to praise yourself, but I mean to relax and have a sense of purpose. Ang dami po natin mga kababayan na naging plantitos, plantitas, nagpaint, bumalik sa pagpipinta. In my case po, sumulat po ako ng sarili kong libro na I found it very significant during that time, poured over my thoughts rather than to deal with something negative. Provide social interaction, collaboration. Ito po ginagawa nyo ngayon is a very good example of collaboration because it's not only given to REBAP Global City Chapter members. It's not exclusive. As a matter of fact, they have a plan to have this, or I'm not sure if we're already on YouTube right now, but eventually we will. And to reach more individuals na yung global reach, mas maging madami. We mentioned something about failure a while ago. Encourage self-care and exercise, very important. Create appropriate programs such as yours. Okay, so it led me to this particular food for happiness. See, most of the time we come to see or hear dopamine, serotonin, for example, or even when we do some exercise, hormones come to spike up, giving us more healthy outlook. So yung mga nag-exercise po dyan, mga health enthusiasts po dyan, to the point na nagpupunta pa sila ng gym, yung endorphin level po nila mataas, I mean, regulated. And that having said, mas nagkakaroon po sila ng positivity. Parang pag nag-exercise po kayo, there's nothing you cannot do, di ba? Pag perspiration happens every now and then, parang it generates that particular feeling that you have all the energy in the world that you can give, Parang ang taas talaga ng energy level. And it's not just physical in terms of conquering pain. It's also psychological that when here comes a more stressful situation, more depressing scenarios, you come to combat that because of that. We have another hormone po in that case, which is dopamine, So the dopamine enhancer is what we call enhancement, is what we call the reward chemical. So dyan po yung sinasabi ko kanina na kapag ka po tayo ay nabigyan ng magandang praise, a simple tap on the shoulder, you're doing well, no? Iba yung nagiging feeling mo, no? But if this is also something that you can get out of eating foods, no, such as those that you can find in the screen. So vitamin B6, B12, vitamin D, for example, and zinc that some of you have been taking during the time of the pandemic at the height. Kasi yung zinc, ginagamit din po natin. Yun, lalo na nung nagkakaroon po tayo ng assumption na to combat COVID, particularly, we need to have high intake of vitamin D and zinc. No? But these are just some of the things, food intake that you can take into account. Egg is there, tuna, for example, beans, walnuts, among leafy vegetables. Okay? Insights po ito, hindi naman po yung instantaneous na kapag kinain niyo po agad, power up agad. No? So, it has the regulation of the intake has to be taken into account. And it's just important that we are aware that these are healthy food and at the same time, it boosts our dopamine levels. Okay? Another thing is more on serotonin. No? Serotonin, once enhanced, is your mood stabilizer. So, yan po yung nakakatulog tayo ng maayos. We have very good outlook for the day. Our decision-making and concentration also happens to be in a good state. Okay, you can find here even peppers, no? Yung mga maiilig po sa peppers dyan. It also relieves depression. Even Epsom salt, green smoothie, almonds, banana, I mentioned that on an earlier time. And traveling, spending time with nature, walking, nabanggit ko rin po yan kanina. It's also part of this. Oatmeal is part of serotonin and enhancer, okay, in this case. Ayan. So much for the food. Mukhang nagutom na po kayo dyan. Maintaining mental health po, in a nutshell, part of my I would say synthesis or summary of all the things that I have mentioned. Ayan po, prof na prof po ang dating. We have grades, GRADES. Okay? G for getting involved. This doesn't mean that you need to be part of REBAP Global City Chapter, for instance, just to make a difference in the world. Of course, it's one of the good things that you have to do structured, more formal organization, for example, no? Or being part of the certified real estate broker, which is one of our sponsors for the day. But it's also one way of saying that being involved is for you to be more sensitive about the needs, personal needs, no, of other individuals, may it be your family members, your friends, your colleagues, your circles. I mean, you being part of a specific circle, an organization, or even those people whom you don't know. No, sometimes one individual may reach out to you and you may not know how in dire need they may be. No, tapos nag-scene mode ka lang, you lost that chance to help other individuals, you know. So it doesn't mean po na tayo talaga yung kailangang humarap sa mga problema nila and all that. But if we would see it's about mental health, for instance, we can easily refer them to us, specifically to the organization I was mentioning to you, Ogat Sandaline. And then the rest will follow. Na nakatulong po tayo sa kanila. Relax. This is part of self-love. This is part of self-compassion. If you don't find time to reflect and to have a time for yourself as a form of giving yourself a reward, nagkakaroon po tayo ng information overload, our concentration is clumped, no, and we don't make the right decisions then. No? Okay? You also need some breathing space. Ask for help, especially when you need one, regardless of your position, your age, your gender, okay, among other variables or demographic profiles. Do diet or do creative things. Okay, we already mentioned the impact of that. Exercise is very important, and more so, another silent pandemic other than mental health is sleep, lack of sleep particularly. No? You're literally awakening your cancer cells, and once sleep is not there, you have sleeping disorder. You have impairment of concentration. Yung brain po natin literally nag-dry up, and the chances are, of course, other than yung lifespan po natin umiikli, No, it's one way of saying that we can't also do exercise. You can't, apektado rin po ang inyong food intake, yung appetite, for example, no, if sleep is lacking in the picture. So it's one way already the past few year, 2 years, sabi nga po ng ating host kanina, in that case, more than 2 years passed, and we're thriving. We're no longer surviving with God's grace. But the GRADES that I have found it to be useful in this time and day, not just probably just during the pandemic, but also even post-pandemic, And with that, I would want to say a part of my reflection, if you're able to see Inside Out Pixar animation, there's a character named Sadness. So if you are sadness, the one thing that I've learned from there is that no one go through life feeling amazing all the time. Just like my analogy earlier on, there can be nighttime, daytime, rainy days, sunny days, and it's normal to feel down every once in a while. Why? Without the hard times, how would we know when we are in the good times, right? So we definitely learned a lot during this pandemic, and part of what I've shared in a conference in 2020, with the unprecedented impact of the pandemic that has toppled countless lives, brought about changes in education and industry. We come to see no one imagined we can work at home, and do our chores at the same time. It is vital to consider wellness programs at all times, which again, for the third time, I'm emphasizing that your esteemed organization has been doing right at this very moment. So we all have our responsibilities, and one of the responsibilities as community leaders, community members, is to impart the good news that we can do something with what's happening. And with that, I say magandang buhay po sa inyong lahat. Make your mental health a priority.